The holidays can bring us a lot of joy, but as family gathers together to celebrate, it can also bring some relational tension, some arguments, past and present pain, etc. Is there a way to avoid these situations? And if not, how can we keep things peaceful? Well, joining us today to discuss this is Pastor Tim Seim. He is the seniors pastor at the Evangelical Free Church here in Lethbridge. Pastor Tim, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you. Well, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a great conversation, something I'm sure all of us can relate to. Christmas can be the most wonderful time of year, except sometimes there's a wrench maybe that gets thrown into the works. And often we have relatives coming for a visit or at a family gathering. And of course, families are made up of people that don't always see eye to eye on some issues. And this can make for some awkward conversations or gatherings. Have you experienced that, Pastor Tim?
Oh, for sure. I like to say that I was part of a dysfunctional family before they invented the word dysfunctional or before it became trendy. My mother had real emotional issues. We had a large family. My father turned to alcoholism. There was just all that goes with that. Anybody that's ever gone down that road, it just creates more and more issues, more and more problems in the sense of what you're facing. But it's about the relationship. And so we intentionally decided that we were going to have a relationship as limited as it was at times. That was our decision personally.
Right. Can you talk about what helps with that intentional attitude of kind of maybe forgiving and forgetting or moving on with family members?
Sure, because as you said, there's going to be things that are unavoidable. But I always took the approach in our family situation that we needed to understand how to manage it. And by managing, we set up, as we had our family going into a dysfunctional situation, we tried to plan that. And one of the things we did, which really was effective for us, is that we did shorter visits, more visits, but shorter visits. The longer you stayed, the more likely it was going to go off the rails with something. So we always planned ahead of time who's doing what, who has a new job, who has this, because those were conversation starters and sometimes could stay away from, the stuff that was going to create the tensions. And so it's having an intentional plan. At least that's how we approached it and found that it helped us to really build the relationship as a priority, but not get trapped in all the other stuff that can come in.
Yeah, you can have, especially within family, whether it's cousins or siblings or parents, you have that child relationship. Could you talk maybe about developing that adult friendship between family members?
Yes, that was a new experience, and it always is for everybody, I think. When I became a follower of Jesus, I thought my parents would be really excited and want to hear more about it. It didn't turn out that they were excited at all, nor interested in wanting to hear more about it. And as a child, I was in my late teens, I had to be very careful about how I approached a parental relationship. But that helped me to decide that I could do that by, again, just making a certain plan to understand what my parents are going through, how I could help, how I couldn't help, and what areas I could focus my attention on when I was with them. And eventually led to really good spiritual conversations, even though that was a point of tension at the beginning of my Christian walk. But later on, it became an open subject, and I had the chance to be very open with my parents about it.
Well, that's really good. Sounds like maybe there was some heated discussions. So I want to ask you, with these family get-togethers, if there are some heated discussions, are there maybe some key principles we can use to maybe decrease the fire or switch conversation topics?
Yes, I found that discussions can only really be heated if we become heated. Somebody can be heated about a topic, but our conversation can be led to a point where we're asking clarity questions, where we're asking for them to kind of play out the value system, if that's political or whatever it is. And you learn from doing that. But if you become heated yourself, then it becomes divisive, it becomes an argument. But we can actually learn from people we disagree with. And we always try to listen carefully and hopefully have a chance to share our values or our view on something. But sometimes that wasn't given. So that wasn't the occasion. Didn't worry about it at that time.
Right. So I'm getting from what you're saying that we need mercy and grace. Can you talk about having that attitude of forgiveness and mercy and grace?
Sure. I'm guided in my whole life of walking in marriage, family, and in ministry that God has given by a description of Jesus from John 1:14. It says Jesus was full of grace and truth. And I have often believed that by personality, we kind of lean to one or the other. We can be truth people and we'll give the truth, take it or leave it, no matter what happens. Or we can lean to grace and mercy and maybe not give enough truth. But I always try to figure if Jesus was a description of his life, I would be really satisfied if I could walk through my life and seek the balance between those two.
Right. So you had mentioned that your parents were not believers in the Lord and you had come to understand Jesus Christ as your Savior. And I'm sure we have some viewers that are probably maybe saying to themselves, that's where I am. Is there a way that you could advise them to talk to their unbelieving family members about maybe the hope they found or something to that effect?
Yeah, I found that I had to have time to live that out before my words really would be accepted. And that was, how did I treat my parents as a teenager? I could see things that were wrong, but it wasn't my place to try and correct that, but I could live the life of Christ before them and in conversation with him. And eventually that opened up, as I mentioned, the doors for conversations. And I overheard one night my dad say to some friends that were visiting after I'd come in late on Sunday night from my fourth or fifth church experience in those days, that he made a reference to how much my life had changed. And he didn't know that I could still hear him as I was walking up the stairs in our farmhouse. But I realized the work Christ was doing in me and honoring them in my life and doing what I can, anything for them, was having an effect and opening up the door to talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important to model our beliefs and having that whole relationship come together. Now, one of the other issues, and maybe it's more, there's more focus on it this year than in previous years, but is family finances. Have you found, like in your church family or in the people that you minister to, that they're struggling maybe this Christmas with finances? And is there some advice that you could give them?
Well, the struggle is certainly very real. We had a car for 9 or 10 years and decided to trade it in and get something else, and we're shocked at what the cost of even buying a basic car was today, because you get out of the market. And that's a very real thing for people, and the challenge that goes with that. We see that all over the place. And we're big proponents in our church family of supporting Streets Alive, Food Bank, all of the local people that are doing something. We don't have to recreate those things, but we can certainly help and make a difference in them. And our church has embraced that greatly. And it's just a way that we can honor the community and what's already taking place, and but help with that. Now, personal finances can be a real issue and discussion. I don't know if I've ever had. We've observed situations where you wish you could step in and just take care of something, but you can't. But just support and listening, caring about it, and doing something, even if it's little, makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're continuing on with our holiday conversation, but changing a little bit of gears. Some of us, maybe there are people, or myself included, could be guilty of trying to make the holidays as perfect as possible. And maybe we have this picture perfect Christmas celebration or family time in our head, or trying to recreate memories from the past. Any advice to those who maybe are hosting events that perhaps they're trying to do too much and they end up getting stressed out and tired?
Yeah, don't tell my wife that I told you about her, but she's a perfectionist in arranging the house. The table is set, certain things. She has to watch me that I don't eat one of the cookies before people come. But everything is done for that. She loves that. It's a gift that she gives to people. But the thing I've learned from my wife is the minute people walk through that door, it doesn't matter. They could come in with muddy feet. They could knock over a Christmas ornament. It doesn't matter because it was all about them coming. And now that they're there, the attention is all on the people. And how can we have a time together and how can we enjoy our celebration and just being together from that? So I think that's the key to sensing. Do your perfection, but then as the popular song, let it go, from that point, it's done. Have a good time, have fun.
Right. So, how about including those who are maybe introverted? We probably all have those family members that are going through different things and they're trying not to bring their issues from outside of the home into that gathering. How can we make sure that we're being inclusive?
Yeah, that we all have that, and we have found that, personal conversations are much more effective than a group conversation. We have family members that they just aren't talkers. Um, Sometimes there's issues, sometimes it's just personality. But we found that if we could go off and do something together, take a walk or do something one on one, we could learn a lot more about what's going on in their life and including them, but not making them speak in front of a bunch of people. And if you have a family situation, somebody's more than likely to shoot in a comment that isn't necessary or helpful. And then that just creates more tension. And that puts the person who's a little introverted just in a little more difficult situation.
Yes. And I'm sure that it just comes down to making people feel welcome and understanding where people are at and having that mercy and grace. Any final thoughts on the importance of being around family at Christmas time?
Well, it's just that, again, if it's a priority, I remember when I was finishing up my schooling, we were about 1,500 miles from our family. And we decided to move back closer to that area and take ministry that allowed us to be there to develop a relationship with family, to re-engage, because I had been gone for a number of years. And doing that was really a very valuable thing for us in the sense of getting back into the place where we could spend time, have those shorter visits, and rebuild relationship. Because out of relationship, everything else really kind of flows out of that. If you're loving and respecting each other, you can be in disagreement, but we don't have to make that the bottom line to everything we do. There's very little that we have to go to the top of the hill and fight for. But if we take the time to have a relationship with people, we'll have a chance to speak our convictions or a chance to speak into other people's lives. It's always been that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really about loving the person and speaking to their heart and connecting on that deeper level. Pastor Tim, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Merry Christmas and blessings.
Yes, and Merry Christmas and blessings to you as well. That was Tim Seim. He is the seniors pastor at the Evangelical Free Church here in Lethbridge. I'm Michael Clausen, and for all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas.